safe. Won't close our eyes in fear and hide. We'll let our beauty reign. Nothing stands between us and the world we dream to know. Won't be silent. Won't be silent. Won't be silent, won't be silent. Not for one more day. We'll speak out, so the future will be safe. Won't close our eyes in fear and hide. We're gonna let our beauty reign. We're gonna fight until there's change, until there's no more hate. We were made to love, no matter how much hate we face. We will fight for those who cannot and need our strength. Won't close our eyes and fear we want to be the light that shines through pain. We're gonna fight until there's change, until there's no more hate. We'll break the silence. We'll break the silence. You'll break the silence. Screaming words of hope. We'll break the silence. We'll break the silence. You'll break the silence. Screaming words of hope. No, I won't be silent. 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 No, I won't be silent.
Won't be silent, embracing my superpowers of humor and optimism to survive being second-generation Holocaust, coming out, addiction, and endless unbelievable obstacles, is a memoir by Abe Gurko, which traces the author's journey through a life marked by significant challenges and his strategy for overcoming them with humor and optimism. The book opens with Abe reflecting on his childhood as the son of Holocaust survivors, detailing the unspoken trauma and the weight of history in his family. Growing up with parents who had endured unimaginable horrors left an indelible mark on his psyche, instilling in him a deep sense of resilience. From a young age, he noticed the differences in his family dynamics, the silence around the dinner table, the emotional scars his parents bore, and realized that this heritage carried both a legacy of survival and a shadow of pain. As Abe entered adolescence, another personal challenge arose: his sexual orientation. Coming out as gay in a time and culture that was far less accepting than today was fraught with difficulty. He faced discrimination and hostility, and the process of embracing his identity was complex and arduous. Nevertheless, Abe harnessed his innate sense of humor and positivity as coping mechanisms, refusing to let the ignorance and prejudice of others dictate his self-worth. In his adult years, Abe confronted the specter of addiction. Substance use became a way to self-medicate and momentarily escape the heavy burden of his past and the pressures of living authentically in a judgmental world. The cycle of addiction pulled him into dark places, and he found himself battling not just the physical grip of substances, but also the emotional and existential turmoil that underpinned his dependency. Through various unbelievable obstacles, professional setbacks, personal betrayals, and the vicissitudes of life in the limelight as he navigated a career in the entertainment industry. Abe's narrative showcases his relentless drive and resourcefulness. In an industry characterized by superficiality and fierce competition, he managed to carve out a space for himself, all the while contending with the personal demons that persisted in the backdrop. The memoir also touches on the HIV/AIDS crisis, which irrevocably changed the landscape of the gay community. Witnessing the devastating impact of the epidemic, dealing with the loss of friends, and the fear of being struck down by the disease himself became yet another trial Abe had to endure. Through this period, his mettle and his commitment to living openly and honestly were continually tested. Central to Abe's story is the theme of voice. Heeding the mantra of speaking up and speaking out, "Won't be silent," echoes the collective and personal imperative to resist being muted by adversity. No matter the challenge, be it external discrimination or internal strife, Abe emphasizes the importance of using one's voice as a vehicle for empowerment and change. What distinguishes Abe Gurko's account is the way in which he frames his experiences. Instead of capitulating to despair, he chooses to view each hurdle as an opportunity for growth. The superpowers, referenced in the title, humor and optimism, are not merely coping strategies. They form the bedrock of his worldview. Through wit and a positive outlook, he transforms potential victimhood into a narrative of triumph, encouraging readers to find their own inner strength. As the memoir progresses, the reader witnesses Abe's process of healing and self-discovery. He engages in deep introspection, questioning the origins of his resilience and the lessons he can draw from each chapter of his life. He also grapples with forgiveness, towards his parents for the unspoken despair they handed down, towards society for its cruelty, and towards himself for the self-sabotage of addiction. The intersections of identity, being gay, the son of Holocaust survivors, an entertainer, and an addict, are dissected and explored, painting a picture of a man made up of many parts, each shaped by struggle, yet undeniably interconnected. Abe illustrates that identity is not a static construct, but a fluid amalgamation of experiences and choices. Throughout Won't Be Silent, readers are also treated to various episodes from Abe's career in Hollywood and New York City's glittering social scenes. His anecdotes include run-ins with celebrities and notable figures, but these stories serve a larger purpose. They highlight the sometimes surreal contrast between the glamour of his external life and the more profound internal battles he endured. In a poignant turn, the memoir connects Abe's personal history with a broader narrative of human endurance. The second-generation Holocaust narrative transcends individual experience, speaking to a universal theme of carrying collective trauma and the resilience it engenders. Abe positions himself within this continuum, acknowledging that his parents' strength in the face of genocide inadvertently equipped him with the tools necessary to face his own distinct array of challenges. Won't Be Silent is not a tale of victimhood. It is a celebration of the power of the human spirit. Abe doesn't shy away from acknowledging the depths of his despair, but he deliberately places greater emphasis on how he has managed to rise above it all. He credits his innate humor and optimism as the forces that have propelled him forward and allowed him to retain his sense of self in the face of life's relentless trials. Recovery from addiction marks a significant turning point in the narrative. This process represents the culmination of Abe's embrace of his superpowers, an act of reclaiming his life from the throes of substance abuse. Here, the narrative arc bends towards hope and renewal, as Abe constructs a sober life still guided by humor and positivity, but now also tempered by wisdom and sobriety. The latter portion of the memoir discusses the process of writing the book itself, reflecting on the cathartic nature of storytelling and the drive to share his journey with others. He uses his memoir as a platform not only for self-expression, but also as a means of connecting with others who may be struggling with their own silent battles. In conclusion, Abe Gurko's Won't Be Silent serves as a testament to the possibility of transcending extraordinary adversities through the embrace of one's innate strengths. Humor and optimism, as much a part of his identity as his heritage and his sexuality, become tools for not just surviving, but thriving amidst life's unpredictable challenges. It is a story that offers inspiration, urging readers to find their own superpowers, to use their voices, and most importantly, to never remain silent.
Hey, my name is Zev. I go by @Zebulus on TikTok. I am a junior at Georgetown University studying international politics and security with minors in Russian and mathematics. I'm currently calling you from DC at Georgetown.
Right. So do you have aspirations to be in politics?
It is my opinion that anyone who has aspirations to be in politics should not be in politics.
You want to know something? You're the second person I've interviewed that's in school for law that says that.
My name is Jessica Craven. I live in Los Angeles, California, and I am a full-time activist and author of Daily Actions newsletter, Chop Wood, Carry Water. I'm also an elected member of the Los Angeles County Democratic Party, and I teach workshops called Activism 101 and also Democracy 101. And my interest is in activating and engaging more people to be involved in the political process.
Yeah! My uncle was killed in a concentration camp, and he was like a notable like conductor, composer. And when they were in the ghettos before he went to the camp, he was the conductor of the Vilna Symphony Orchestra. When he was in the ghetto, he still got the dispensation to go to work. And it was like weird because here you are living this free during the eve day, and then you have to go back. Anyway, him and the other musicians smuggled in instruments for an orchestra, and they had it was called the Vilna Ghetto Orchestra, which was amazing. And he started a 100-voice choir and a children's school. And it was one of the very few ghettos where there was a cultural life. So when he went to the camps, there was not much you can do. But him and a friend wrote a song, which was a song of resistance to the Nazis, which when he was killed, like hours before the liberation, the song went away. Everything he ever written was gone. And 72 years later, the Holocaust Museum found a piece of this song written in a book in Israel by one of the survivors who said it was like their mantra. That was all you had left, was your dignity, and don't let them take your tears. And the lyrics are really, sad and poetic and whatever. But when this whole thing landed on my desk, I've been on this extraordinary journey. The challenge was to give my uncle a face, a name, and a legacy. So I had my friend who's like an award-winning songwriter rewrite the lyrics. So she wrote it Won't Be Silenced. That's the name of the project. That's the name of the song. And I've had all different artists reinterpret it because for me, it's about, whether it's from the cotton fields, the concentration camp, or the inner city streets. Music is something that in oppression, people use as their way of living life on life's terms, a day at a time.
We won't be silent.
Hi, everyone. This is Jeffrey Geisner, founder of the Jewish Culture and Holocaust 10/7 Remembrance and Stand Against Hate communities. I'm with my great friend Abe Gurko from Los Angeles, California, in the USA. And we're going to be talking about his great book, Won't Be Silent. And you can see it in the background there. But we'll start with also, Abe is running for the World Zionist Congress. And we'll start there, Abe. So why don't you give a little bit of background on yourself and take us through the reasons why you're running?
So I am a son of Holocaust survivors. That's first and foremost. It's what made me who I am today. It's given me the strength to survive my own challenges, which I on no level have ever compared to what my parents survived, but it's in the DNA. I always like to say we get a spine of steel as Jews, which gets handed down from Moses. But for the most part, I have taken pride in knowing that my heritage is unique. I'm in a tiny minority here in this country because not a lot of Holocaust survivors in general, let alone someone who has risen from just being a suburban kid to an outspoken source pro-Zionism, and I'm really proud to have that legacy. So that's what made me who I am today. And the coincidence that I've been invited to run for World Zionist Congress, which, if you don't know what that is, it is one of the most honored positions as an American to be able to participate in such an important body as the World Zionist Congress. So started in the 1890s with Theodor Herzl, and he was an intellectual and a philosopher and wanted to look, Jews have been getting chased from our from our homeland for thousands of years, but in the 1800s there was this intention to find a Jewish homeland, and initially it took, of course, not until 1948, but it was originally supposed to be in Uganda, where they were going to give us land for Jews to go and emigrate there. But then this group that he pulled together said, well, why don't we just go to where we came from, which is the land of Judea, the Mount Zion, which is why we are called Zionists. So for Jews to be returning to Mount Zion, this is why they call us Zionists. Currently, with the anti-Semitism that has ratcheted up because of the October 7th war, the word Zionist has become like the N-word. And I want to help shape the way we look at Zionism and Zionists and bring it back to its pure essence, which is going back to the land that we came from, where our forefathers came from, where Moses brought us from, through the deserts, from slavery. And that is where we are. And that is where I want to bring the word back to a palatable, something that young people can relate to, because if you see the way the students are just like besmirching the word Zionist, like it's a curse. It's not while I'm standing.
Won't be silent, won't be silent, not for one more day. We'll speak out so future generations will be saved. Won't close our eyes and fear and hide. We'll let our beauty reign. Nothing stands between us and the world we dream to know.
So let me also ask you, the Congress that you're running for, what is the functional role? So let's assume you win the spot on this Congress. What will your day-to-day look like? What is the mission? How do you impact decision-making. So I think that would be helpful for all our audience to understand
Right.
what you're running for and why.
So what it is there's there's 525 delegates. So if you think of it in the same way as the House of Representatives here in America, that they are in charge of the purse, right? This is a body that the Congress has a certain amount of money that has been allocated since the beginning of the establishment of the State of Israel. It's $1 billion a year fund that needs to be spent for Jewish-related organizations and improvements of Jewish positions around the world. So in America, of that body, we get 160 delegates that we vote for. So if I win, I'm one of those 160 delegates, and it's a 5-year commitment. It is not a daily thing. Once a year, you're sent to Israel, to Jerusalem, and that is where all the decision-making and all the various kind of the bodies come together and decide how the money gets spent to help the Jews around the world. It's really an incredible honor that if I win, will be like living up to their legacy. My dad was very much involved in the World Zionist Congress, an organization, more fundraising for the organization, but the Congress is something very specific that helps Jews around the world. I mean, it's unfathomable. That's how exciting it is.
I know you're very proud of your father in so many ways, but why don't you tell the audience a little bit about his role in the World Zionist Congress, because he played quite a role.
Well, it's actually, his story is, like many during the Holocaust, he was particularly sent to the gulags in Siberia for the war. And when the war was over, he joined the Bricha, which was an underground group that smuggled up to 250,000 Jews from the DP camps, walking through the Austrian and Italian Alps to boats that took them to Israel. So many of us know about the story of Exodus, that movie with Paul Newman and Leon Uris's book about what happened in Palestine when they wouldn't let the Jews off the boats. No one ever really talks about how did those people get on the boat to get to, at that time, Palestine, now Israel. And that's like a bunch of superheroes that smuggled Jews out of the DP camps. Just to say the DP camps, which not a lot of people know about either, but after the camps were liberated, they were sent to these they were called displaced persons camps, where they were fed and they were getting medical treatment. The American soldiers were there kind of protecting them, although my mother used to say they weren't so I either. But yeah, so the Jews were not being treated that great at the DP camps either. I mean, it was better than the actual concentration camp, but they wanted to go to Israel. They wanted to be free. And my father and a group of partisans helped make that happen. And it's a little piece of history that nobody knows. And hopefully in this next phase, my next book will address that much better.
And you have some photos, and I don't.
Yeah, you want to see?
Yeah, I think the audience would love to be able to see the book. Why don't you show the cover, and then and that's your book, which is terrific. We're going to get more into that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to show the pictures.
Yeah, definitely. So I found a book, a rare book that was at the Jewish Museum in New York City. My father died when I was in high school, so I knew very little about his story, but I went on a little bit of a journey. And look at this. This is my dad walking through the Alps, walking people to the boats. That's him. He was like one of the leaders. And if the heroism isn't more intense than this is him in a diver dance suit, because the shores were rocky, so you couldn't pull the boat up to the shore. So it had to be steered into to get the passengers on. So it's just all sorts of like superhero material,
And what was the term bracha, and what does bracha mean?
Bricha means flight. So it's kind of the flight out of the DP camps to freedom. So it's just very meaningful, and it's nobody really knows about it. They study it a little in Israel because ultimately Bricha, after the war, after the camps were, after the DP camps were kind of liberated as well, most of those Bricha went on to Israel to start the country, to work with Ben Gurion. They were like the army, the police. But my dad had a family member in America, so he decided after he would go to Israel after he went to go see his family. And then just to make matters cuter, he ended up meeting my mom on the boat. You just can't make this stuff up. Look, this is them. In 1949, it was the USS Greeley, which was called the Cargo of Hope. So they met and fell in love, and he never made it to Israel outside of being a supporter and a fundraiser for Israel, because then it came me. But
And did your mom work or she was a stay-at-home mom?
growing up, she was a definite stay-at-home mom. But when my dad died, after he died, which again, it was at high school, she went back to college and got a teaching degree and, kept herself busy in that kind of way.
So let's take the segue to your book. What was the impetus for you to write your book, the mission, and what you're trying to accomplish with your book? I know you're very active promoting it on social media, doing the rounds all over the place, getting it talked about. So let's discover a little bit about the history of how you came to write your book and the process of writing.
So my dad died, as I say, when I was a senior in high school, and we had a terrible ending. And it was a series of events that led me on this mad journey to kind of find myself. So that's what the book is, ultimately a journey to finding what matters, to being just becoming the best person you can be, right? However, I've been trying to write this book for years, but I never had the wherewithal to really finish it until 2 years ago, when I met a woman who was a retired editor, and she's like, "Can I just see what you have?" She's like, "What do you mean you're not finishing this book?" So it's been this journey. It's kind of like crossing off what's on the bucket list, which had been on my bucket list, but I just hadn't been paying attention to. So 2024 ended up being the kind of year where two big accomplishments that I had been working for had been accomplished, which was the book and a documentary, which is another story. We can talk about that later. I think it's important for all of us to tell our stories. I mean, I learned that when I kind of saw when the Shoah Foundation was having the Holocaust survivors tell their stories in video, I thought, everyone has a story, right? So whether it's catastrophic or it's one like me where I'm just I'm battling my own demons, I think we all try to want to share our experience and strength and hope with others, Yeah, I mean, it's an honest look at a life having, as I like to say, finally worth living,
And so what did you learn about yourself as you sort of were tapping on the keys, and you said you've always wanted to do it, so you have a long sort of continuum of thinking around this book. What did you learn about yourself?
I learned that I really do love myself, which is a long time coming. And the fact that I finished it is, I'll put it this, when I handed in the manuscript, I told the editor, if everybody could feel this way about their own sense of accomplishment, there would be no wars. I really feel like when you love yourself, you don't have time and the wherewithal for anger and wanting violence. And yeah, I just think everyone gets a chance to decide how they live their life. And I wanted to do it in brutal, brutally honest Abe fashion, which when you read the book, I mean, it's funny, it's touching, it's historic because a lot of the moments in my life happen to coincidentally play out during like 9/11 or the Vietnam War or the AIDS crisis. These were all moments that happened in the world that something particularly happened to me and how a kind of journey through it. So yeah, it's been a wild ride.
So I want to scratch your skin a little bit and get under the surface. Can you give us an example of one of those kind of life-changing, I loving myself moments in your life that has come out through the book and turned you into where you are today?
I mean, it's of course getting through addiction. I'm not going to lie. I was, I used to work with a celebrity that I am not allowed to disclose the person, but they were a drug addict. And when you work intimately with somebody like that, you're susceptible to doing what they're doing. And I knew that if I didn't get out of there, my life would be over. And sure enough, that person's life ended about a year after I left. So I decided I didn't want to do the traditional go to rehab with all these people who are just like, you know, feigning interest in their own life. I wanted to put myself in a room and go through detox and force myself to confront what was about myself that I wasn't willing to look at, live a life that was true to myself.
And what did you find? I'm sure there are people in the audience who are living similar situations, similar life challenges. What was your deeply rooted hatred within yourself?
I just I hated the fact that I was this assimilated. I just wasn't being true to myself. I became this is important to everyone. I became an American assimilated Jew, which when you are raised by Holocaust parents, there's a moment where you're like, because my mother would tell us stories about the Holocaust since I'm a kid, baby. So I just kind of, I separated myself from that. So it was coming back. It was this journey of understanding that I am never going to be happy unless I embrace who I came from, who I am, what's the best part of me, and to see that that's what's the best part of me. You know, a lot of people always just like, you know, don't want to have anything to my parents. My parents were no longer alive when I had this realization. So I had no place to turn but inside. And I found a lot of hope in there, you know. And it's like I said the other day, hope is a great beginning. And that was when I really began to turn my life around. Even though I've had a tremendous amount of ups and downs and successes and failures prior to this, but it was that final reckoning with my demons that finally said, I am making a decision. I don't want to. And I realized that life is choice. Like everything that you do, you choose. Yeah, there's certain things that are greater than out of your hands, but you still have your choice in how you deal in that moment with whatever comes at you. People are going to throw stuff at you all the time. How you handle that, how you navigate that, how you circumvent those around you that don't want to see you happy and in the best who you are. You just have to make a decision to move forward. That's my opinion.
I came to you and I was seeking a coach, and I was coming with some of the things that you're talking about. How did you teach yourself to be hopeful?
Because you want to live a happier life. You know that you're not doing what's best for you. You know when you're not being your best friend. You just know it. You don't know how to always deal with it. And people come to me all the time. Because I always like to say, do as I say. It's like, you know, I'm always right. That's like, that's one of the curses of my life. But nobody gives advice like, no, but I just think that it would have to be a dialogue. I have to hear what the particular issue is, but I know it's always going to come back to how can you travel toward self-love? How can you turn this feeling of insecurity or addiction or denial? Denial is a powerful, powerful drug, and as they say, denial is not a sea and is not a river in Egypt, but you have to really, you have to look, unless you commit suicide, you want to live, right? It's as simple as that. So you want to just find how to live within your skin. You want to feel what works and what doesn't work. You're going to have to try a whole bunch of things. Not going to be, you don't have, there's an aha moment, but an aha moment only lasts a moment. You know what I mean? You have to get through, you have to take that aha moment and keep it as your guiding light to get to the other side of whatever is challenging you. And that doesn't mean I not still have challenges, honey. Believe me, I have plenty of challenges. But I know that if I start my day in a space of gratitude, hope comes from that, But if you don't have gratitude, all that other stuff just gets murky.
So this battling cancer myself, and I hope that I'll be able to call you and you can be one of my coaches.
Sure.
When I'm not in a good place. So that leads us to where we are today. And I know we've had endless discussions about what's happening in our country, what's happening to the Jewish diaspora, what's happening in every single country for nationalism versus populism. And I know you have lots of thoughts. So I'm going to ask you to open up and not be shy. And you never are shy, but to give us
you think?
give us your thoughts, and I assume it's one of the reasons why you're also running for the Zionist Congress, because it's deeply rooted in you to resist.
I mean, it's as simple as this. I will be damned if I'm going to live in a fascist country. Now, granted, we are conceivably leaning into one. I know everyone is accusing Trump of that. Let me just preface this with, I haven't liked Trump since the 2000s. So, you know what I mean? I am not new to this party. But I refuse to allow the Jews to be put in this kind of position. I mean, we're here now and we're being confronted by these Islamic, I just don't want to get in. It almost is so infuriating. I can't even put the words together when I see that I'm currently working on a project where I'm studying and doing research on the media bias against Jews and Israel in this particular moment. And because America has the First Amendment, what's so unfortunate is that even misinformation and disinformation is protected by the First Amendment. So what's happened this week with the professor the Syrian-born professor who is, being threatened by the Trump administration to be
works at Columbia University.
That's like bringing up a whole Pandora's box of he is rallying his students to be anti-Semitic and asking people to join Hamas and inviting Hamas here to America in clandestine to do. Did you know that there was a discussion to do another October 7th here in America? Like, that's protected on the First Amendment. However, and I was just reading an article by this lawyer who I just coincidentally interviewed, who's trying to prove that there is a difference between First Amendment for American-born and First Amendment for those who are not natural citizens who have a green card. So it's going to end up in the courts. It would be unfortunate if the First Amendment protects him unconditionally, that he is allowed to rally against America and burn American flags and hate America. And but that's the First Amendment. And I've been saying even before October 7th, The First Amendment needs an amendment. The same way everyone hopes that one day there'll be an amendment to the Second Amendment, I'm more concerned with the First Amendment because we're seeing it play out against us. And that's why the Jewish Congress is an important thing for me to be part of, because we will determine how much money is spent here in America, which would be allocated accordingly, on programs that would help us. And not for nothing, like what's amazing about Israel is that every kid goes into the army. So there is a sense of nationalism that is so pure and vibrant. When you go there, you just get a sense that they love their country. Whereas here, no, I don't know if anybody gets that
Honestly,
from the
it's not
university.
100% true, because up to recently, Arden in Israel had a waiver going all the way back to 1948. So here, a huge amount of the population doesn't serve in the army in Israel, and I'm hoping that they're rectifying that. But the other thing that I found interesting, and I wanted to get your opinion on this, is that the Trump administration is taking demonstrators who are clearly anti-Semitic and deporting them. So what do you feel about that?
I mean, I am enjoying I'm enjoying seeing their suffering. But I think and everything has to be done legally, because what's going to be good for the goose is going to have to be good for the gander at some point. But let them suffer. I mean, for the most part, I mean, when you grow up having nightmares about Germans doing things to your family, which I would always like, it was just too horrendous to imagine. The same way we try to imagine what those people that have been kid hostages, what are they going through? What are they doing to them? What did they do to that baby to fear Bibas? How did they just? Would I like to see everyone who wants it? Look, it's either kill or be killed, right? Isn't this the truth? Would I like to see a bunch of them have the same ending as all four of my grandparents? 100%. I don't control the world. I can just hope that they have their own sense of suffering for inflicting so much pain and suffering on Jews here, for feeling insecure in our own country, a country that we've brought nothing but good intention and joy to, and have created the most delicious things that people enjoy every single day: movies, television, iPhones, potato latkes. You know what I mean? Like, and what are they? They're just a miserable bunch of violent hilaria. And I just really I can't rectify it. So I have to stay in this kind of moderate political space where I don't want to be an extremist, even though I could see how easily you can go there. But my politics is about finding my way in the center, finding myself into peace, finding myself into breaking bread to at least find common sense. I just hope at that table they don't get a bomb doesn't come. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you, we didn't early on describe what you did as a career, and let's go back and let people know what
Which one? No, I've had an interesting run. So I've been everywhere from an assistant to a celebrity here in Los Angeles for years. So that was like a bird's eye view of the industry. I moved back to New York, and then I did a lot of big PR fashion events, like during New York Fashion Week. I did a lot of fundraising for an organization called Gaza We Deliver, which was an organization in New York that served people who were homebound with AIDS, food. There was a food delivery service, which went on to also include not only AIDS patients, because we had kind of grown so quickly and the need became very important for more than just people with AIDS. I raised money for breast cancer organizations. I raised money for charity events. And, it's been an interesting ride. I did a documentary, which I was mentioning earlier, that is airing now currently on Max, called Louder, the Soundtrack of Change, that I was the executive producer on with Selena Gomez and Stacey Abrams. It's about the power of women's voices through change, which aired October 17th in the hopes that it would have gotten Kamala Harris elected, which went over like a lead balloon. But yeah, so look, you know what I always say? Things happen as our teaching moments. That was a teaching moment for America. I mean, the fact that Trump wins is a teaching moment for Democrats. I will honestly tell you that on November 6th, I woke up after being a loyal Democrat my whole life, which is a long time, and I registered as an independent just for my own sanity. Not that that's going to change any way I vote in the future, but just I didn't want to call myself, when I think about that 19 million people did not show up to vote. I'm sorry to get political, but I got to say this. That 19 million people showed up to vote for Joe and not for Kamala is such a statement on why the Democratic Party is broken. And up until November 5th, all the Democrats were saying that because of Trump, the Republican Party was broken. And boy, were you out to lunch if that's what you really thought. Because here we are.
Tell me how you met Don King from CNN.
Oh, Don. Yeah,
Don.
you know, I was introduced to him. Actually, the guy who brought me into the World Zionist Congress invited me to meet with Don when he was still on that, you know, he still has it, but I haven't been on in a while. But yeah, so he invited me during the election because I have a big TikTok following, a political TikTok following of Trump haters. And so they wanted me to stick in my 2 cents, which was fun. But you know what? At this particular moment of reflection, you know, as a Jew, before I am anything else at this particular moment, I just want to see how this plays out with these radicals. You know, it's different. When I was marching, even in grade school, during the moratorium to end the war in Vietnam, where I stopped my 7th grade class from getting into school because my sister was in college and she was demonstrating in Washington, D.C. And I was inspired to be an activist as far back as then. I just kind of felt like the youth culture then was far more engaged in a way that was for America, whereas the youth culture now is all focused on Israel, which, you know, the world during the Vietnam War, we lost 55,000 young Americans. We're not losing any Americans in Palestine. And that to me is the difference. Because also, I don't know what part you live in, the East, you're in the East Coast, right?
I'm in Philadelphia.
Yeah. Here in California, when you see like a new makeup brand comes out, you see lines for hours for girls and trying to get, you know, they are not focused on what's happening politically. They want to get.
So let me ask you, because I've had discussions about this myself. I have a son who's 35. He got married 2 years ago to a very nice Jewish girl, and we live in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends here in Philadelphia who are the same age. I have a lot of medical issues, and I have a lot of doctor's appointments where I see the nurses and the doctors who are also in their 40s. And when I ask, why are they not in the streets? Where's the pitchforks? They look at me like with their eyes glazing over, like, you know, they're not invested in this country or this democracy. And I just don't understand it. Now, I understand the Vietnam War. I lived through this. People were getting killed, and I didn't want to go to the draft. So I had a stake in marching and doing what I needed to do. But I don't understand. And there was a million woman march in his first term, within a few months of him coming to term. Where is the 2 million, 5 million march for what he's doing today? It's non-existent. And I don't understand it. And so you're a political, you have a great sense of politics. Why is this the case?
There's a few things. It's never one thing, right? We can go back to the Kardashianizing of America, which is where I mentioned the apathy from young people who are far more concerned in the latest makeup tint as opposed to what's happening, you know, under their skirt to the most part, especially women. For women, not, I mean, here in Los Angeles, when the Women's March happened, that was like a change, that was life-changing for me. First of all, it was the first time I took the subway in Los Angeles, which I didn't even know existed, but it was the only way you could get to the march. But we had 1 million people here in Los Angeles. It was a sense of urgency and community and beauty. And I'll never forget, it was like the subway to get down to downtown Los Angeles from where in Hollywood, people were like hugging and there was love. It was about love. It was about love of country.
Date the year for me. What year?
2000. It was January 21st, 2017.
Yep.
The Women's March.
Yeah.
So there's that, and that's the big difference between that and Kamala losing. When Hillary lost, we were heartbroken. When Kamala lost, we were pissed. And that's a huge difference because we were invested in women, in her. We had seen her from like, I'm not going to be making cookies, blowing up, man. You know, we loved her. She was someone that we followed for years when she became Senator of New York. I mean, it was almost like that's power for you. That's power for you, honey. This is not an engaged youth culture. So whatever happens here, it's like, you know what? You and I saw the best of America. People our age saw the best of America. We saw the transition from not having mass communication, not even having freaking anything but an answering machine. You couldn't even get a phone, you know. We were part of the whole entire, bastardizing of America. I don't know what you want to call it.
Techno disruption from
I mean, which is it's the end. That's, you want to know why people are in the streets? They're too busy, like, you know, keyboard warrior, which you and I are guilty of too, don't get me wrong. But we've done our marching. Like, get out there and march. It's not for me to save the world. It's just for me now to help as many Jews as I can. It's a big difference.
So you're running for the Zionist Congress.
It's with the Jewish Future slate. So I'm going to, you know, make sure everybody has whatever. You have to be American and Jewish and over 18, but which I'm sure your crowd is.
No, we have 10,000 of those people, so it's okay. But one of the things I find interesting to hear your thoughts about, since you're going to be you have such a stake in Israel, being in the World Zionist Congress.
Yeah.
How do you feel about what's happening in Israel?
You know what? I just watched this movie, The Bibi Files. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I
that
heard.
movie.
Yeah.
I didn't want him to get reelected. I find him to be no better than Trump, except that he cares more about Israel than I think Trump does. I think his intentions originally were amazing, but I think, like everything else, politics corrupts, power corrupts. I feel that the movie is a bit of a hit piece on him. I think she's a piece of work, the wife. Don't get me wrong. Yikes. You know.
What do you think about the politics, the
far right lunatics that are running the show in a way?
Yeah, the lack of accountability for assessments of October 7th. No one is rushing to come out with independent findings about who's to blame for what is absolutely horrific failures on October 7th. And we're
I, you
still
know what? I don't even call it
years out,
failure.
and no one has claimed the responsibility. That just only this week, the main guy who's the general resigned and took responsibility. But
Mhm.
but Netanyahu, who is certainly responsible,
Of
has
course, the buck
not
stops with him.
has not taken any responsibility.
No, because that's why I don't like him. I mean, I feel like he's got the blood of all the losses on his hands. And he will have to be, he'll deal with his maker. He should have just like said, look, I'll leave. You can have another election if you don't prosecute. The thing that they're prosecuting him for, like when we look who's the president of our country, that's like embarrassing to make it a point. Cigars, champagne. Like I said, cigars, champagne, rich friends. Where do I sign? You know what I mean? Tell me I don't want that life. Hello. You know what I mean? Please. It's embarrassing. See, but that's my new favorite word about politics is that it's all embarrassing, which takes the onus off how horrifying it all is when you look at it in reverse. Like these, like Islamic, well, first of all, they're all Measkites. No wonder they're covering their faces. The women are horrendous, so they probably can't get laid. So, okay, let's go march. They got nothing else to do. And it's also a byproduct of COVID. Don't kid yourself. COVID, everyone was in their room, and these people just need community. Like, I get that. We needed community when we were young. That's why we would go to the streets. That's where the community was. Life was in the streets back then. Now it's like everyone's like sequestered.
Now it's on TikTok, iPhones, and Facebook.
You know what? I'm cutting back my TikTok time for sure because I have a huge following there. No, I have 300,000 followers there. But they're very anti-Semitic, I will say. The Chinese are no big I for the Jews. I'll put it that way.
What are you trying to use your TikTok for?
To take down Trump and his cronies, But again, since the election started, I'm like, let him see what he can do for Israel. I'll just keep quiet here. I never liked him, In 2020, we were part of millions of TikTokers who made sure that he wasn't going to win. And we won, and we just couldn't galvanize again in 24 because what happened with social media since 2020 is that the algorithm became the leader of who gets eyeballs and who gets clicks. In 2020, there was no algorithm. It was like you were finding community. It was like what Facebook was very in the very beginning of Facebook, where you found your community, you had this sense of togetherness. And then the blogosphere started where you could take it outside of Facebook, but it was still your community and you were writing newsletters and whatever. That's why I love Substack, because it's like a different kind of community where you're doing a little more reading.
For our audience, how do you define Substack?
Substack is a fabulous community online called Substack, and each one up, if you have I have like my own, it's like a newsletter circuit. So I have Abe Won't Be Silent.substack.com. I mean, a lot of people are jumping on board because it's this smarter group of people. They're just people, it's thoughtful. You're writing opinions. It's like a huge opinion piece where everyone gets their own opinion, which won't get published in a newspaper necessarily, even though I do get picked up from time to time in a local media outlet here in Los Angeles.
Who is the arbitrator of TikTok, of Substack?
You get your own page. Oh, it's not one of the billionaires. It's I don't know who it is. I'm sure it's just some lovely guy, but I can Google that real quick if you want.
And then I guess we're going to end this by having you tell us a little bit about what it was like to grow up in a Holocaust with parents. How did it impact you? Are you still impacted?
It
You,
doesn't say who owns it. Yeah, I'll be crippled for life.
you, you suffer from intergenerational survivor trauma? If you do, how are you managing it? So let's start with I threw out a bunch of half a dozen questions all at one time. I hope.
Let's do one at a time.
Yeah.
I would not change my parents for all the tea in China. My mother was so funny that when I think about is her humor how she survived that catastrophe. I mean, me and my sisters are funny because of her. My dad was funny too, but my mom, sarcastic, witty, hilarious. Um, there was just a tremendous love in our family. And I think that is that they were grateful that they had another chance at life and to have a family. And that was why it was just, and we started off poor and then my dad got us out, we moved on up and it was kind of just his journey when you look back on coming from just the worst environment to where he became just someone who was a part of the community, successful, raised kids. And then,
What did your father do?
he was in the auto parts business and had a very nice business. He started, he went from rags to riches, literally. He literally used to sell rags to gas stations. So they would, remember the old days when people would actually clean your windows? You know what I mean? Before they invented the disposable blue napkins. So that's how he started, and one thing led to another, and then he needed to get he through the gas stations he found out that they need car parts, and that's how we started getting car, and it's there's nothing like the immigrant story. I am like a jealous of those who come to America with like the incentive to want to win. I didn't have that gene, and that's one of the things that I'm always trying to still combat, really, to be honest. But I wouldn't change me either in the high, I would say maybe I would have taken less drugs, but even then, who knows where you end up if you do that. So everything has to be the teaching moment for you,
So
the lesson for you.
Are you like your father or your mother?
I'm definitely like my mother, which is why I really want to be part of the world. I want to be more of a superhero like my dad. Like, people who really appreciate me from my writing and my social media and my Substack, they really are very great, especially during the election, the 2020 election. I would get countless direct messages and emails. Thank you. I feel safe knowing that you're here. I wish you would run for something. But the last thing I want to do is be an American politician. They are all gross and on the take. I don't care who it is. I don't care what they ran for. I don't care what religion they are. I don't care how high and mighty they think they are. They're all on the take. If I was an American politician, I would not end this conversation without saying, I need that $100. You know what I mean? But the World Zionist Congress is the thing. It's just different kind of election,
And your sister, and your sister is like your mother or your father?
No, my two sisters are very much like my mother, but my oldest sister, Vivian, has a very strong work ethic, which is what so she has my dad's work ethic. She's a workaholic like he was to this day. She's in her 70s, still works, runs a kids' clothing company. She's been in it for 42 years. Workaholic. She's amazing. Grandma with 9 grandkids, and she's like total constantly. She's not at the thing, she's with the thing. And she's thing with the kids. And I don't know. I don't have that. I wish I had that energy. She's definitely more like that. My sister Rita, the middle sister, is a princess like my mother, for sure.
And you are
And I'm a princess.
the youngest?
I'm the babe. Yeah, I'm the youngest. And so I really
want to
want
let people know how old you are?
I'm 68 and going on 22. Yeah, no, my spirit is young, and I color my beard. so
Have you in your life suffered intergenerational survivor trauma? Were your
I mean,
parents outward facing with their, did you hear your father cry, your mother cry in the nighttime?
my
Or
father was very like a stone. My mother, as I said, she would tell us stories and cry. I knew it all the time, my whole life, which is why I became assimilated. But then you circle back and she's amazing and like whatever. Who doesn't have trauma? But yeah, I think I'm going to have it for the rest of my life. I mean, when it gets too cold and I go outside and I find myself complaining it's cold, I'm like, at least I'm not out in Germany in the winter with no coat. You know what I mean? So you're forever like comparing how horrible things can be. And there's a lot of reasons why I feel like I had shortcomings. My dad dying young, I never had that kind of steering of a parent father son relationship that I didn't realize I was yearning for until it was too late, and coming to terms with that and actually finding the humor in, okay, well, maybe I would have turned out to be a big Jap if if he had lived and gone right into his business. You know what I mean?
did you have any anti-Semitism?
Oh yeah, definitely.
You want to
Please, Shlomi, come here and say hello. This is my Israeli husband, Shlomi Barami. This is Jeffrey. Say hi.
Hey, how are you?
How are you? Nice to meet you. I'm hearing all about you.
Yeah,
None of it's good.
you're not kidding. Israeli is piece of work. No, he's lovely. And he's a mensch. Believe it or not, we were introduced we had a mutual friend who was Muslim who introduced us, and we're no longer friends with him. And I'm sure the times are because of what they are.
Where did you meet? In New York or LA?
No, in Los Angeles.
Uh-huh. And how long have you been married?
We've been married 5 years and a month, and we've been together for around over 6 years. So yeah.
So do you feel worried about this administration and your marriage?
You want it, you can have it. Okay, first of all, you're going to have to knock on my door and tell me something to my face. I'm not going to watch on the news. Oh, they're going to threaten, You just have to wake up pretty early in the morning to scare me. That's for sure. And that's a part of my dad, for sure. So that's why there's a little of both. I want more of that, especially now, because my dad told that the only story I know about my father during the war, outside of knowing where he went and knowing what he did, like kind of posthumously, is that he said he was in a situation where somebody was anti-Semitic, and I think it was still in Germany after the war. And he said he gave him such a zest that he even like knocked him out. And that to me is like, I want some of that. You know what I mean? Because fortunately, where I live, I don't see what I see on the news with the streets, with the schmatters on the face and the carrying on. It happens at UCLA, but that's a couple miles away from me, But I dare somebody to come up to me because I wear not only the Chamsa, but the triple Jewish star. Like, try it. I mean, I was bused to an all-black high school, so I learned at a young age how to walk tough, even though you're not. You know what I mean? You have to get through the hallway. You know what I mean? It's like every hour on the hour, you're always like, but that comes back to the Jews have the spine of steel, and you have to find it. So whether, you're feeling insecure or feeling sad or forlorn, whether it's health issues or personal issues or romantic issues or psychological issues, you have it in you to like straighten up and take it on and get through it. It's like, I love the Brits say, when the Brits say, I'll leave it with you. That's like that big, they always say that. And it's because it's your responsibility. This is all you have. You're all you got. You're all you got. Yeah, you might have a husband, you might have a sister, you might have a cousin, you might have a friend.
Won't be silent, not for one.
melodic piece of music. You know, if you were to put it into something more modern, it could be, you know, won't be silent, not for one more day.
Exactly why I called you. You realize that, right?
It's an honor to have worked on this, and just I feel so honored that you asked me to do it, because this is so important. But the whole reason I think we met was for this.
Oh,
it wasn't for any of those
definitely.
things. It was for this
No,
moment.
this is, yeah.
It was
I
like
agree. I'm
to unearth this and put it back into the universe in a way that would be relevant for people today. When I first heard the song, it was the harrowing quality of the melody. It was just, emotionally, it hit me as this bittersweet moment, you know, and it was just very eerie. I mean, I think this whole thing is a collaborative effort. I think it started with you finding out about your uncle, unearthing the song, bringing it to someone like me to interpret it, and kind of us discussing what that song would look like today. What your uncle did in terms of really creating a piece of music that allowed people to fight, you know, to fight back. And that's
even
really what it was. They had no
fighting back,
power.
yeah.
He gave them some power.
Right.
It's really about building community. I mean, I think that's what Wolf did. He built a community inside of a horrible
yeah.
place.
Yeah.
But the fact that everyone could talk to each other through this piece of music and be there to support each other is really what this is about, and it's really what music is about.
The story,
It's haunting.
and I was just going to say that it's haunting.
It is.
So I don't want people to feel haunted by this now. So what you're doing is giving it a place of comfort. The way you wrote the words, bring it into this place of hope, which was the essence of what I wanted to do. It's the only way I wanted to give my uncle a legacy.
I really listened to those words, and I tried to keep it in the sort of vernacular, the everyday vernacular that he had written when you looked at the translation, which was stay silent. You know,
Right.
It was kind of like a list of instructions of how you should conduct yourself. He almost wrote it as if he was a leader as opposed to a conductor, you know, where he was saying, this is what you need to do, people. You need to stay silent, as if he was speaking to them. I wanted the song to give whoever is singing it some power, because I think for the Holocaust and for the people that were in that ghetto, they had no power. So in that moment, they could hold on to something that was theirs and that made them feel in control. And so I just felt a connection to this composer who was trying to put something out into the world that would help people. We would never say, be silent.
Never.
And he wouldn't want us to say that now.
No.
I think that the whole idea of not speaking out, of not being strong enough to tell your side of the story or what you believe in, is a very scary thing.
Won't be silent, not for one more day. We'll speak out so future generations will be saved. We won't close our eyes and fear and hide. We'll let our beauty reign. Nothing stands between us and the world we dream to know. We'll break the silence, scream in words of hope. Oh, 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 oh. not for one more day. We'll speak out so future generations will be saved. Won't close our eyes in fear and hide. We'll let our beauty reign. Nothing stands between us and the world we dream to know. Won't be silent. Won't be silent. Won't be silent, won't be silent. Not for one more day. We'll speak out, so the future will be safe. Won't close our eyes and fear and hide. We're gonna let our beauty reign. We're gonna fight until there's change, until there's no more hate. We were made to love, no matter how much hate we face. We will fight for those who cannot and need our strength.